All right, hello and welcome to Hello Governor the podcast. As always, I am Abdullah, and my guest today is Erik Ransom. How you doing, Eric?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? And I gotta ask, like, first question: is Ransom your actual last name?
I know it sounds like a stage name. It is on my birth certificate. Uh, someone I met years ago said you sound like a porn star or a serial killer with that name. But yep, I'm neither, maybe somewhere in between.
No, because when I saw your name when they announced City of Wolves and they announced like voiced by Erik Ransom, I'm like, that can either be a stage name or he sounds like a what do you call it, a 1980s action movie hero.
Or like or like a character from Fatal Fury. So, but totally, yeah, it's my actual name. I was blessed to be born with it. I even get Eric with a K, which I enjoy. So.
Okay, debate. Eric with a K or Eric with a C? What do you prefer?
Okay, all the way. Viking style. It's a firm letter. It knows what it is, you know. There's not very many pronunciations of K. C, it's wishy-washy. No
But
offense,
how
people with names.
but like how do you feel about words that are spelled with C but they're pronounced with K? Like how do you feel about that?
I'm indifferent to that, like at a certain point. But like, and I'm kidding. So like, Eric's with C's, don't hate on me. But yeah, I do. It feels like a strong old name, like it's the Viking spelling. It's Eric the Red. So I like it.
So please don't send us any
Thanks,
hate
Mom.
mail. But yeah, very
Eric with the
cool.
demographic is very offended. I'm sure. I apologize for.
Oh, Eric Bauza's probably like fuming right now. But but yeah, I mean, pretty cool name. Very like I said, 80s action hero. Like Erik Ransom has to save his son from like a terrorist attack or something.
Well,
I
there
don't know.
was the 90s movie Ransom starring Mel Gibson, which when all the video stores started closing, there was a video like in my town, a video store in my town. I think it was called Easy Video, and they were like selling all of their stuff away for cheap, like DVDs, VHSs, whatever. And I found a DVD of the film Ransom. And I went up to the counter and I said, "This is my name, so can I just have this for free instead of paying the $5?" And they gave it to me. I did
That
pay for others. I bought other. I didn't really want that one. I just wanted the name. I did, I don't, not my jam, but yeah, I might have that somewhere.
that is amazing. It's like, look, I know that you guys are having a clearance sale, but my actual last name is Ransom, so I should get
I
this
was like,
for
I need
free.
to see my driver's license. Here it is. Like, this movie's about me, so I should probably have it. And then, so a couple more things on the subject of my name while we're on it. So whenever I am on, like a call with my insurance or whatever or something, and they need the spelling, I'm always like ransom, like being held for ransom, which gets mixed responses. Sometimes I think people take it as a threat, but I grew up with that as well. I inherited that from my parents who have been saying that for years also.
Let's just get this out of the way. Give me back my son. There we go. He said the line, so you can all go home now.
Thank you for that. As long as I don't have to.
Yeah. Anyway, let's just get right to the actual questions right now. What made you want to get into voiceover, and was it something you always wanted to pursue, or was it something you stumbled across?
I always did want to do it, but it felt unassailable to me for a long time. I was a theater actor for many years. That's kind of where I got my start. When I was a kid, like I got sent to theater camp because that was the thing that sort of appealed to me the most as a child. Being able to kind of, get up there and do funny voices and funny walks and everything, do impressions. So I always loved that. I always did love animation, video games, and other genres of media for which voiceover is an element. Um, and then living in the greater New York area, working mostly in musical theater, it wasn't like I didn't have the equipment kind of around, or I didn't know how to how to employ it in the way that I do now. Because I was a musician, I did, like record my own demos and stuff at home, but it wasn't, like I didn't know how to kind of get into it. And it wasn't until the pandemic when like a bunch of my theater friends and colleagues, I have a theater company called Iconoclast Theater Collective that formed during the pandemic with kind of the goal of figuring out how to use the skills that we had accrued in theater in media that wasn't reliant on in-person contact because with the pandemic hitting as hard as it did, it was just it seemed like we didn't know when or if we were going to be able to go back to what we'd been doing for most of our adult lives. So we had this idea to do a musical podcast, like narrative podcast. So basically, like I call it like an animated series without the animation, but it was like a 12 episode like musical with like three or more songs per episode, per half hour episode. Um, and through that process, all of us obviously used the skills that we had, whether it be singing, music, whatever. But we also learned new skills that we were able to branch into other media. So, for instance, for Andy Peterson, who composed the music, he not only was composing songs like a musical theater writer and underscoring, he was composing kind of like a cinematic score. So it was sort of like an audition to branch into that world. Rachel Klein, who was our director, who pretty much directs all of the musicals that I write. She's like my good friend and developmental director. She learned to be kind of a TV showrunner through this process and to direct audio as well. And for me, it was obviously like I invested a lot in equipment. I narrated the project as well as having written it. And so through that, I just had kind of the facilities then. And a few months later, when I was worrying about money again, I was like, oh, maybe I should try to monetize this. And I got into some of the online platforms and just sort of branched into it from there. And I think coming at it from having been a theater character actor, I had a lot of advantages that have benefited me quite a bit in my career thus far.
That's pretty cool. Like, once the pandemic hit, you guys were like, okay, let's start a project that actually helps us out, helps us improve our skills while we go, as opposed to just sitting around doing nothing. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were actually very quick on it too. Like I think started, I want to say like mm, late March, early April. We were like late March. We were having the conversation of 2020 about like coming up with the plot, coming up with like what we really wanted to do, and yeah, we really hit the ground running. And because so many of our friends and colleagues were actors who weren't working and didn't know when they'd be working a lot, we all had time. So we were able to, we did it a very unconventional way in terms of we recorded kind of on Zooms like this. We would do all of our dialogue like interactively. It wasn't like we were just, except for I was the narrator, so I did a lot of stuff on my own. But by and large, the scenes we would do in a Zoom, so people could kind of bounce off of each other, work in a way that I think theater actors are more accustomed to. In theater, you hear a lot like acting is reacting and that kind of thing, which obviously in a world where you're you don't have access to, you don't hear the other person, you don't see the other person. The reacting you're doing in voiceover is obviously based on a script and whatever direction you're being given.
And what skills do you think you developed during that time that helped you later on in your career?
During that time, oh God, so many. We had some great audio people involved. Mike Luneau and Sean Haggerty sort of ran our sound department, and they were. I'm so grateful to how to them for how patient they were during the process because obviously there were all different skill levels involved amongst the actors who were recording themselves on various different equipment in different kinds of setups. Some people were like literally huddled in closets with like, recording on their phone, sitting on a pillow or a stack of pillows. And then there were some of us who were a little more tech savvy. As I said, like I had equipment for music. I had like, I knew how to use Logic Pro. I had some advantages, but I also, hadn't really done this. Um, the only time I had ever recorded something I did many, many years ago. I was probably in my early 20s, and I had to like drive up to Connecticut to some studio, and I hadn't really done it since. So just being able to kind of like learn how to listen to myself, to hear like, which of my impressions and impersonations were stronger than the others when I'm actually listening to it. And yeah, just gaining that ear. And in the writing, there was certainly a lot of a big learning curve. There was being a theater writer, I'm used to sort of the expectation of you basically try to write on the cheaper side. You try to write small casts, not too many sets, something that like seems like, if it doesn't get this huge Broadway budget, which very few shows obviously do, it's something that can be done, that can be like easily put on by people so they can, afford to do it, which will then be sort of an investment for you. In the audio drama world, that was not the case at all. I was able to have a giant cast because, people were double cast or whatever. I was able to, set it anywhere I wanted. I could have set a scene in space if I wanted to. It's just a matter of, narrating that we're in space and having the accompanying sound effects, which Sean Haggerty, who I mentioned earlier, was fantastic at providing. There was really an incredible amount um, of sound effect work and really immersive soundscapes that like just I've listened to and enjoyed audio drama before, but I think this gave me like more of an appreciation for the meticulous attention to detail that some projects have. And Sean was someone who did that for ours for the world to come.
And how would you say that your experience on that project helped you improve as an actor?
Well, there were a lot of roles in it. So I did quite a bit of there's quite a bit of diversity to what I provided for the project in terms of just, voices, timbres, accents, even singing. So there was that. It kind of like I've always been again like kind of a character actor. I always was I was rarely like the the romantic lead. I was usually like the funny sidekick or everyone else. If it was, like a lower budget production, uh we had like a lot of, like quick change shows that I did when I was working in Philadelphia or things like that, where like I would be, an Irish bartender in one scene, and within seconds I was suddenly, I don't know, an astronaut, whatever. But so yeah, like there was a lot of that certainly. And then just learning again, kind of through that project and the subsequent work outside of that kind of unconventional, like Zoom black box scene that I was talking about earlier. I learned about the things that the ways that theater translates to the booth and the ways that it doesn't. So learning to really use the tools available to me from the script especially and the directors to figure out what who the character is, what is going on with them, all of those things. Because in theater, you're used to having a script well in advance. Um, a lot of shows are revivals, so you could, like the script may have been out for hundreds of years if it's, Shakespeare or Marlowe. So you have a lot of access, a lot of time. You have rehearsal constantly. So lacking that and coming into a world where I oftentimes um, for story-driven projects that are under heavy NDAs, I may not get the script at all until the project and until the recording session. And for Fatal Fury, for instance, I was still working under like the code name. I wasn't actually during the session told what the project was. I had a line that was the title of the project at one point, so that the cat was sort of out of the bag at that point. But a lot of these projects, they don't want spoilers out there, so they will, the script will be on their computer and they'll share their screen with you, and you're sort of like teleprompter style, seeing what they want you to see as they're ready for you to see it, as they're ready for you to perform it. So that was a big sort of learning curve for me, but it was something that I felt like I like it. Like it works for me. I was always someone who like when I was given a cold read, I was able to make pretty strong choices off the bat. I was able to kind of use whatever was in the text to tell me like, okay, this is a sci-fi. That tells me something about the style of what I'm doing. This character's name is, I don't know, Dietrich Müller. Like maybe he's German, like so things like that. Because sort of just like trying to figure out how to take what is available to me on a project and find what they're looking for or something close enough to it.
And speaking of Fatal Fury, how did that whole thing come about? Was that an audition? Was that like a
Yeah.
general audition?
Yes. So I've worked a few times with Keyword Studios, who ran that project. They have a wonderful casting director, Melissa Grillo, who's been such a joy to work with the several times that I have. And she sent me a bunch of roles. And for people who don't know, a lot of times when for this style of project for a video game or something like that, you'll typically get like if they have any character art in the works, they might share that with you. That's one of my favorite things to get as an actor, because it's to me one of the strongest tools to say like who what does this person sound like looking at you know a blob of goo kind of like silly cartoon thing versus looking at like a Vox Reaper. Like those are different voices. Like you can look at that and say the lines and say like, oh, that didn't sound like it would come out of that person. um so for this I auditioned for several roles, um but I remember I was really drawn to Vox Reaper's art and bio. um and I did notice that he was 19 years old. And so like those were like the art, the age, and the description were all like super super helpful to me um, in finding the role. So like especially I would say the art and the age were really helpful to me. I do remember like that was kind of the role that I wanted. I like there was something about the aesthetic and the story that just like of the six or so roles that I submitted for. Um, his was the one that I was like I really want that one. So I was like obviously super excited when Melissa called me up and said that I had landed it.
And were you familiar with the series beforehand, or was this a totally new experience for you?
I was familiar. I'm not like a diehard by any means, but like I got chills when I realized what the project was. I did play in the 90s. Um, but again, like I wasn't like someone who like knew all of the lore or anything. And it's been so interesting in the past year or so, learning so much about this legacy, and it's really cool to be able to carry on, the legacy of a beloved character like Grant, and seeing how people react to the story as it's revealed, and to this character has been really cool and fascinating.
Okay, I gotta say, like when I saw him for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that the kid from Bully? That's what happened to him. Because he has a very similar design to the protagonist of Bully, and if you don't know what that game is, then I feel old for mentioning it.
I don't think it's an age thing. We're probably similar.
Oh well, you'd be surprised how many times I mention something and someone's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Never mind, just ignore me."
All the time, trust.
But yeah, I mean, I saw his design. I'm like, okay, yeah. So this is like a very, very like edgy type character. And listening because I played the game. I played the game a little bit, and I listened to his voice lines, and he's a pretty like tormented, edgy character, and he's kind of an antagonist, but not really, kind of in the
Yeah.
middle, and it's very interesting. So basically, what I'm trying to say is like, how did you get into that mindset for that record session?
Um, all of those things that you just said are like things that like very much appeal to me. Like I do tend to like the darker stuff. I do like villains. I do not think Vox is a villain per se. As you say, I think he's maybe an anti-hero, something like in the middle there. But but yeah, there was sort of like, and again, thinking about that kind of character and that age, like a 19-year-old who's that sort of, um has those kinds of dark leanings. Like there's, like I was an emo kid. I get it. So so yeah, like I would say that just like getting into the mindset of that, like using the lines that are available to me, listening to the direction. We also had um things were recorded at different times for the Japanese and English versions. So, like, there were lines I would be able to hear in the Japanese that when he had recorded first, and vice versa. Like, there were lines that I recorded first that he was able to use. I don't know if that was helpful to him, but for me, it was super helpful. And yeah,
And have you played the game, or can you not stand listening to yourself?
I played the game. I I enjoy listening to myself more than I should. But yeah, I played. It's been a long time since I've played a fighting game, so it was interesting to see what has changed and what's the same. Um, I did originally. I'm mostly a PC gamer. So when I tried the beta version using my keyboard, I was very daunted. And I was like, oh no, I don't think I can do this. But now having tried it out on the PlayStation 5 version with the smart function engaged, I am able to not be KO'd instantly.
And what are some of your favorite lines?
Lines? Oh, um, I don't know offhand. I don't I can't think of a one offhand. It was, such a quick and dirty process recording it, and then I mean, like the ones I hear the most are, "Oh shit, turn to dust," you know. So like the longer lines, I'm not off book at this point on those.
I was actually surprised at the "oh shit" line because I'm like, wait a minute, did he just swear? Because that's so rare to see like a
Yeah.
fighting game character swear in a game. That's just
Yeah.
so rare.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too, actually. But I liked it. It makes the edgy character edgier, I guess.
I mean, I love, I love how his in his arcade mode, Grant is like, "Oh, this is my disciple." That's why he has he has my like mask tattooed on my face.
Right.
So dumb, so dumb. But yeah, I mean, like him being a legacy character is interesting because again, I'm not that big of a King of Fighters
Hmm.
Fatal Fury fan, so I had no idea
Right.
who Grant was. I mean, I mean, I saw like a YouTube video and someone's like, "Oh, Grant was a character from this game," and I'm like, "Cool, edgy character gets like an edgy, uh, what do you call it, legacy character." So cool, But I feel like
As I said, I also was not familiar with sort of like the story of kind of any of it. Like I knew like some of the characters certainly, but like I just played it probably like in arcades and at friends' houses in the 90s. So I didn't really follow a story. I was surprised when I was recording, um, when I did know it was a fighting game, how much of a story there was, how much dialogue I had interacting, and how much plot uh, there was.
And how did you feel about the efforts? Were they taxing, or was it something you were like totally okay with?
I was totally fine on this project, and I will say the folks at Sound Cadence and Keyword are very good about like they know how to schedule a session. So they're not going to like have you lead with all these like grating efforts and gravelly shrieks or anything. It's dialogue forward, and then like as the day wears on, then you get into the tougher stuff. So there was never like a session when I had to like when I lost my voice or anything. It was always very um I was always able to keep it the whole way through.
And was that recorded in studio, or was that via like Zoom?
That was remote. Yeah.
And how did you feel about that?
Oh, fine. It's what I'm used to. The vast majority of what I work on is home studio stuff, and I'm glad, that the investment I put into my equipment is good enough to be able to hire me for that stuff. Uh, but yeah, the interesting thing about it was that it was a three time zone session because it was me here I'm in the greater New York area, then the engineer and direction team at Sound Cadence was in LA, and then of course we had like a big room full of people in Japan as well. So it was sort of interesting to see where the team was in their day, because it was all, for me it was usually very late at night, but not for everyone, and everyone was kind of in different emotional states because of however long they had been working that day, or whatever else. These things are
Yeah, that's crazy to me. It's like where it's like I got to be up at like 1 or 2 in the morning my time, but to them it's like 5 in the afternoon or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did. So I play GW in the Sharkbait dating sim, and a bunch of the cast members of that series of games got together this past Saturday to play, like just Jack in the Box games online. And there was like one guy in Australia, the host was in the UK. So like for the host it was like 9:30 at night. For me it was 4:30 p.m. and the poor Australian had to get up at like 5:30 a.m. to do this silly game that most people do drunk at parties, and he was very, very sober.
Hey man, as someone who has to record, sometimes I record episodes at like 4 or 5 in the morning my time. So there you
Yeah,
go.
you're
Like you get used to it. But yeah,
yeah. Well, I have this podcast with you today, and I'm recording one with someone hosting out of Hawaii. So like again, like this one's kind of earlier in my day, and that one will be at like my 5 p.m., which isn't too bad. But
okay, cool. I got you. I got you in the early
obviously,
spot. So
we don't have 9 to 5 hours in voiceover for sure with all the international stuff. I actually recorded today with Awaken Realms out of Poland. So that was my morning session. Then I did a bunch of auditions, and now here I am.
being a New York-based actor, do you feel like that limits the type of work you can audition for, or do you not have a problem with it?
Um, I've been fortunate, but I do feel like I would probably have access to more if I was based in LA. I know that during the pandemic, things really opened up in terms of what they would allow to be virtually recorded, and that there's been kind of a withdrawal from that. So, yeah, it can be a challenge, but I do still consistently at least get opportunities for big projects, most of which are based out of LA or the UK. Character stuff, obviously, like New York has no dearth of opportunities in a lot of realms, but obviously, like a lot in voiceover of the character stuff is Texas or LA or UK based at the moment.
Yeah, because even if you do get like a New York-based anime dub, those are so rare nowadays. It's not like in the 2000s where, Four Kids was around and you had that whole company and that whole
Yeah.
crew. It's not that anymore. So it's kind of rare to me. Like whenever I talk to someone from the New York area who does voiceover, they usually do shows like occasionally here and there, or
Mhm.
they're doing like legacy if they're a part of like a legacy what do you call it, a legacy project. They get brought
Mhm.
in to do those. Like if like someone's doing like Pokemon and they did it by like way back in the day and they're still doing Pokemon, they'll record via like Source Connect or whatever for that.
Right.
And if it's but most of the time it's just like audiobooks. Like that's the main thing going on there. It's
Yeah.
audiobooks and e-learning and commercials and promo and
Yep.
all that stuff is great, but like when you're doing a podcast where you talk about cartoons and anime and all this other stuff, it kind of like I don't know. It makes it hard to be like, yeah, like
Yeah.
what can I talk about that it would be interesting to viewers to people who listen
Right.
to this thing.
Well, talking about the time zones, that the LA to you time zone shift must be difficult because I'm sure you talk to a lot of people based there. So that's, I guess, when you're talking about um, having to do this at weird times.
No, I said before, like I used to record episodes, at 4 or 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and it's fine. Like I'm whatever. Like my sleep schedule is a mess anyway, so it's like I don't really. It makes no difference to me, buddy. Like
That's good.
and one time it's like I had a voice actress. We recorded an episode and she had to cut it off early, and she was nice
Mm.
enough to email me and say, "Hey, I'm doing another podcast, but it ends at this time. Are you available to if you want to like ask me more questions and we can just like record another
Oh,
like." And I
yeah.
looked at the time she was offering, and it was like 3 a.m. my time, and I'm like, no, sorry, like I'm so sorry, I can't do that. I thank you for the offer, but no.
We all have to have boundaries at some point.
Yeah, and I get that. Sometimes you get you had to cut it off short, but she was nice enough to be like, hey, if you want to record at this time as well, then I can
Yeah.
give you that. But at the same time, it's like 3 a.m. my time, and it's just like, and I listened to the recording, and I'm like, okay, I have enough. Like it's like 50 something minutes, and it's like, okay, I have enough material for that episode, so I don't
Yeah.
really need like the extra time. But
Right.
I'm thankful that she asked for it, and but at the same time, it's like I can't like I had to like because during the pandemic years, I was terrible when it came to time scheduling because I would just record back-to-back episodes. I would record like one episode in the afternoon, the afternoon time slot, and one episode in the evening time slot in the same like couple in the same day. And it was kind
Yeah.
of like very stressful. And I would just record these episodes back to back, and it was just like you can tell, but listening to some of the episodes from like 2021, 2022, that I was like legitimately burnt out, and
That.
I just said to myself, look, you got to like pace yourself. You can't like, I mean, I know you love doing this, but you got to pace yourself. You can't like go record
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to back episodes. I mean, it's great if you have like, record back to back episodes so you can have like a backlog and upload episodes to a later
Right.
date, but it sometimes it's just not worth it, man. It really isn't.
During the pandemic, I did something. So years ago, like in person prior to the pandemic, I started this group, the Dead Playwright Society in New York. And we would just meet like on weekends, like usually Sundays in the afternoon, and we would just like read through a play. Um, it was sort of like it was when I was kind of getting out of acting and doing more writing. I just didn't have much opportunity to audition. I didn't have much opportunity to like flex the acting muscle. So I was like, let's just, do this for fun, like I did in high school English class when Mrs. Rice gave me, some role in Shakespeare or whatever. I was like, let's just like do that. But with wine. So so we did that for years, and then when the pandemic hit, I started doing like virtual ones, like and those the in-person ones had been like once a month, and I started doing it every week. And like we did it for a long time that way, and it was, it was cool. It was something to do. It was something social, something kind of like regular. So it was like it was nice for a lot of people. But then there came a point where I was just like, this is just like having to like host it and plan what the play was, like do the casting, like, familiarizing myself with the play enough to do so. It just became a burden. So we uh we stopped doing that. But we do them on occasion from time to time, just as desired, but that was quite a commitment at the
Y-
time.
Yeah, because even like you can tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna do this like fun thing, and it's gonna be like we're gonna have fun doing it, but but eventually it'll become work. Like eventually it'll
Yeah.
become work, and the God, I'll tell you right now, there were many times where I developed like contempt for this podcast and what I did because I just felt like I was burning myself out doing this, but at the same time it's like, it was the pandemic. I was stuck at home and like what else can I do? Like everything's locked down, everything's shut down, like where am I going to go, and it's
So
especially
did
for
you started this during the pandemic?
no, I actually did not start this during the pandemic. I actually started this like years ago. I mean, the old podcast was just me and my friend Tom talking about whatever, and I would like interview voice actors here and there
Mhm.
back in the old days, back when it was on Skype. And God, remember Skype? Yeah, that's a deep cut for people. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was the original format. And I wasn't happy with the old format where it was just me and my buddy Tom talking about pop culture because I just it felt forced. It felt very forced, and I just like I don't want to talk about like topics that like, oh, what are the geek related topics and what have you, and it's just like I don't care. Like I don't care anymore. Like and I wish I had listened to this person years ago because like years ago someone had told me like, well, you like voiceover, you like talking to voice actors, why not talk to voice actors? Why not do like an interview based show? And
Mm.
at the time I was like, I don't think anybody would want to talk to me. And then like lo and behold, like I think it was like 2018. I was like feeling down
Mhm.
in the dumps, and I reached out to this like really prominent voice actress, and she said yes. And I did that episode, and then that like got the gears turning in my head, where I said to myself
Sure.
like, well, I can either like take the leap of faith and see how long I can keep this going, and
Yeah.
I started doing interviews in 2019. I was doing like interviews way back then, and then the pandemic hit, and then everybody was doing interviews, and it's like, and now my show doesn't feel special anymore because it's just like everyone who like everyone's doing this,
Well,
but I still love doing it. I still love talking to people, and yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you've talked about this a lot on your podcast, so I apologize to your listeners. But how did it get its name?
Okay, this is a real funny story, but like I was just like spitballing names. I was like, I was just talking to someone on Skype one day, and I just like spitballed names, and LO Governor was one of those names, and the guy was like, I like LO Governor, it's the best one. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm and
I
I'm
like.
and I'm thankful for that because giving something a nonsense name makes it more appealing. Because if I just called it the Abdullah Show or the voiceover podcast or whatever, behind the voice or whatever, it would have just sounded
Right.
too corporate and too lame. But like Hello
Yeah.
Governor just
Yeah,
it
it's
hits.
funny. Like I don't know what I expected, but like you sent like samples of some of your other stuff, and based on the title, I just had expectations that were defied by what I got in a good way. Like, like it's
What
I've
episode? What episodes did you listen to?
Matt Lowe and something else that escapes me at the moment. There's someone from Arcane.
Oh, Kathy.
Yes, yes, because I remember that lady Kathy talk, and you were talking about pronunciations of your names.
Oh man, Kath, I love Kathy. She's such a sweetheart.
Yep. That's what you heard for a second, but it's Abdullah, right? That's a
Abdullah, yeah.
Abdullah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you so much for listening to the podcast and actually like not just saying yes and just being like, "Oh, I'll do this thing," and then just like having like no idea what like because I get like sometimes I reach out to a lot to people and they're like, "Oh, thank you for the invitation, but I'm curious as to why you reached out to me." I'm like, "Because you," and I wanted to reply being like, "Because you did this anime thing that I really want to talk about." It's just
Fair enough.
it's so weird to me. Like whenever I get responses, whenever I reach out to someone and someone and I get a response back and they're like, um, okay, but why do you want to talk to me? And I'm like, because you did a thing that I really liked and I want to talk about it.
A great reason, though.
And one lady was like, "Oh,
Like,
I'm thankful for the offer, but I don't think I'd be an interesting guest on your podcast." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you."
see me, I'm overconfident. I'm just like, I might not be interesting, but then just don't air it. I'm boring. Don't air me.
Oh God, there are plenty of episodes I recorded that I just like that just went nowhere, that just felt like very awkward and stilted, and I'm like, yeah, this is bad.
Yeah.
It should never see the light of day.
Well, if this one is one of those, you have my permission not to air it. I won't be offended.
Anyway, like going back to Fatal Fury, um,
Yeah.
have you gotten a chance to meet any of your fellow castmates, or have you not gotten that chance?
No one in person, of course. Although Chris Sharps, who plays Billy Khan, and I connected on social media, and his wife actually lives not too far from me, so we're talking about trying to hang out at some point. He's on the East Coast as well, so not like super far, but we just haven't been in the same radius, social radius yet. But I actually connected with him originally because I played Warhammer Rogue Trader, in which he plays Pascal, and when the Vox Reaper announcement came out, he followed me, and I was like, "Oh my God, like I'm playing you right now!" Because at that time I was like mid playthrough of that. Um, and so like it wasn't for months until his character was revealed, so he was under an NDA, and like he was like biting his tongue that whole time that we were actually in Fatal Fury together. So that turned into a cool thing, and we have like kind of a fun little social media back and forth. Um, but other than him, I've been connected, just in like group chats and discords and stuff. Sorry, my allergies. Um, uh, through Mikkel Casanova, who has the Casanova podcast, which he's a big Fatal Fury guy. So he brought a lot of us in and has been helpful in, sort of getting us out there a little. So like he brought invited us to the Fatal Fury Discord, so we got to meet some of the fans that way. And yeah, but really, just like little chat exchanges and stuff, and commenting on each other's social media kind of thing. I don't really know anyone else.
I just love that. Whenever someone, lives in the same area and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we worked on this project, but we can't talk about it because it's under NDA." And then when you find out, it's like, "Oh, okay. That's why you followed
So
me on
funny. I
social
remember
media."
remember I was actually in Berlin at the time when he got announced. So he slid into my DMs on Twitter or whatever. And because I commented, I was just like, oh my God, like I can't believe you're in it. And he's like, I know, I've been like wanting to tell you all this time. So it's really fun. Another fun little like weird connection voiceover story. Um, so as I mentioned, I'm a musical theater writer. And so I wrote lyrics for this show called Shooting Star, which performed in New York a few years ago. And the female lead was Zuri Washington, who's like an incredible like singer. She's like a great musical theater performer. Um, and so I got to the end of that playthrough of Warhammer Rogue Trader, and it turned out that like her name rolled across my screen, and I was like, wait, what? Like Zuri Washington, like that's not a common name. Like that has to be the same person, right? So I like reached out to her, and sure enough, this musical theater actress is also a prolific voice actress. So we sort of got to chatting, and now we're kind of like industry friends, like because of the nature of the industry being as, especially like in the remote work, literally being remote, you don't socialize a lot with your colleagues typically outside of the internet. So it's nice to like know someone kind of in your area and be able to talk through industry stuff. So she's become a good friend in that regard. And when she worked on the musical, like I wrote the lyrics. So it wasn't like I was in all the rehearsals. So I like met her, but I didn't like know her. I wasn't, we weren't really friendly. It was just like, you're talented. Good job. Good job singing my lyrics. So this connection kind of like was the springboard for a proper friendship.
Now that you've worked on a big project like Fatal Fury, do you think that that will open up more doors for you down the road, or, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there are projects that I've already done that I'm not allowed to talk about yet that haven't been announced. So yeah, I certainly feel like a lot of doors have already opened. A lot of casting directors have reached out in the past year that I'm very excited, who've worked on projects that are in some of my favorite games, some of my favorite franchises, and so forth. So yeah, I feel like every year since I've started doing this, um, my career has grown in some way, and this year has been no different so far. So yeah, I will leave it at that.
And have you ever considered moving out to LA?
Uh, I'm lately more than I have in the past. I feel like I am of a very East Coast mindset, and the times that I have spent on the West Coast, I felt a little uh, culturally like an outsider. But yeah, like I have said like I am also willing to go to LA to record a project. I have family out there, I have friends out there. I will go and then come back. I'll be bi-coastal, whatever. But yeah, I it's not completely off the table, but it's far in the distance at the moment for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've talked to people and they're like, they are doing the bi-coastal thing, and I'm thinking that's kind of weird that that's becoming the norm now, but you do you, I guess. Like, if you can handle like living in LA and New York and like going back and forth between the two states, then good on you, but I can't imagine doing that without like burning myself out.
Oh, I wouldn't mind it, but
But yeah, I mean, like I get it. Like, I mean, LA is where the work is, and and a lot of studios are like LA local, LA local, and it's like fine. Like, I mean, it is what it is, and like, yeah, I mean, if you want to move to LA, move to LA, but it's not a guarantee. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's like it's not a guarantee that you'll find consistent work. You'll find work, but consistent work that lasts for decades. Mm.
is that ever assured in this industry?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing's for certain. Um, anyway, before I wrap this up, can you give us an update on what you're currently working on and where can people find you online?
Sure. So I am on Instagram at Erik, Erik dot ransom, like being held for ransom. I am on Twitter at Erik Ransom. Um, I'm around ericransom.com. And as far as what I'm working on, I'm in the new season of AFK Journey as the Archduke of White Ridge, amongst other roles. I have a few roles in Tainted Grail, Awaken Realm Studios, uh, uh, things I can't talk about yet. Um, but yeah, I think that is what I am allowed to say for the moment.
So if you're listening to this in the future and you're upset that we didn't talk about a project that was just announced, that was recorded. This was recorded before that project was announced. Oops.
Oh, you know what else I can announce? I can say I'm also Mech Tool and several other Vol characters in Path of Exile too.
Okay, that's the now that you mentioned that, let's talk about that real quick. What was that experience like?
It was great. The team is out of New Zealand. And my director Jin is like one of the most delightful people I've ever worked with. Really just so like warm and supportive and like, he would kind of you would hear his celebration when you like kind of nail a line. And yeah, so they're like something about I don't know my voice or the accents that I do. He was really drawn to my portrayal of these Vol characters, and I will say the Mech Tool session. He's the Forge Master boss. Um, was a challenging one. You want to talk about like a tough, a vocally challenging session? That was a very gravelly roll, a lot of efforts, a lot of shouted dialogue. Um, for longer than I'm used to doing it. So uh a very fun session, but I definitely like woke up with a sore throat after that one.
And
And
now
then they
you
added effect to it, so it's even more gravelly.
and now you know why so many actors drink what do you call it? That Nippon tea. I think that's what it's called. The throat coat tea. I don't know. The,
Yes, I invested in some like that morning, like the morning after.
and now you know how Fred Tatasciore feels whenever he does the Hulk. Anyway, thank you so much for taking the time off to do this. This has been a wonderful conversation, and if you ever want to come back, you know where to find me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure.
All right, take care. Bye bye.